cognitive reflection, which is the tendency to question our own assumptions and intuitions, as well as other important characteristics that can protect us from the intelligence trap, include intellectual humility, actively open-minded thinking, curiosity, refined emotional awareness, and a growth mindset. Together, they keep our minds on track and prevent our thinking from veering off a proverbial cliff. It is not enough to possess a good mind. The most important thing is to apply it correctly.
64,000 is the median number of words per book. Average person reads about 200 words per minute. Simple math will tell us that is one book in 320 minutes. To accomplish this in 7 days, numbers say you would have to read for 45 minutes a day. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that notification button, like, comment, and share. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Book of the Week series. Every week as I read another amazing title, I share it with the world. My name is Igor S.F. Walker, and today we look at the intelligence trap. Why smart people make dumb mistakes by David Robson. So, how about you slow down and relax? Reduce all that noise for just a bit. Make that choice and decide to listen. In this video, we'll look at a book exploring the question, why intelligent people act stupidly, and why, in some cases, they are even more prone to error than the average person. It is also about the strategies that we can all employ to avoid the same mistakes. Lessons that will help anyone to think more wisely and rationally in this post-truth world. Stick around till the end. I will share with you some tools I do have and use that will help you tremendously in this game of life. Discover a way to find out what actually motivates you, what innate human need is driving all of your decisions and your behavior. I will share some tools to improve your self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, and relationship management. Intelligent and educated people are less likely to learn from their mistakes, for instance, or take advice from others. And when they do err, they are better able to build elaborate arguments to justify their reasoning, meaning that they become more and more dogmatic in their views. Worse still, they appear to have a bigger bias blind spots, meaning they're less able to recognize the holes in their logic. The greatest minds are capable of the greatest vices as well as the greatest virtues. Those who go forward but very slowly can get further if they always follow the right road than those who are in too much of a hurry and then stray off it. If we are to explain why smart people act foolishly, we must first understand how we came to define intelligence in this way, the abilities this definition captures, and some crucial aspects of thinking that it actually misses. Skills that are equally essential for creativity and pragmatic problem solving, but which had been completely neglected in our education system. It would be foolish to deny the value of these IQ results and the undoubtedly important role that intelligence plays in our lives. The problems come when we place too much faith in those measures. Capacity to represent someone's total intellectual potential without recognizing the variations in behavior and in performance that cannot be accounted for by these scores. Flynn effect has been documented across Europe, Asia, the Middle East, South Americas, anywhere undergoing industrialization and Western-style educational reforms. The results suggest that general intelligence depends on the way our genes interact with the culture around us. Crucially, and in line with Flynn's theory of scientific spectacles, the scores in different strands of the IQ test have not all risen equally. Other abilities that are actually not measured by IQ, like navigation, have actually deteriorated. The Flynn effect shows that we can't just train one type of reasoning and assume that all the useful problem-solving abilities that we have come to associate with greater intelligence will follow suit, as some theories would have predicted. Clearly, the skill measured by general intelligence tests are one important component of our mental machinery, governing how quickly we process and learn complex abstract information. But if we are to understand the full range of abilities in human decision-making and problem-solving, we need to expand our view to include many other elements, skills and styles of thinking that do not necessarily correlate strongly with IQ. Howard Gardner formulated a theory of multiple intelligences that featured 8 traits, including interpersonal and intrapersonal intelligence, bodily kinesthetic intelligence that makes you good at sports, and even naturalistic intelligence, whether you are good at discerning different plants in the garden, or even whether you can tell the brand of a car from a sound of its engine. Robert Sternberg at Cornell University offers a middle ground with this triarchic theory of successful intelligence, which examines 3 particular types of intelligence: practical, analytical, and creative, that can together influence decision making in a diverse range of cultures and in situations. He compares the lack of progress in intelligence testing to the enormous leaps made in other fields like medicine. It is as if doctors were still using outdated 19th century drugs to treat life-threatening diseases. It is also worth paying special attention to counterfactual thinking, an element of creative intelligence that allows us to think of the alternative outcomes of an event, or to momentarily imagine ourselves in a different situation. It is the capacity to ask, what if? And without it, you may actually find yourself helpless when faced with an unexpected challenge. Without being able to reappraise your past, you will also struggle to learn from your mistakes to find better solutions in the future. Again, that is all neglected on most academic tests. While decades of psychological research have actually documented humanity's more irrational tendencies, it is only relatively recently that scientists have started to measure how that irrationality varies between individuals, and whether that variance is actually related to the measures of intelligence. They're finding that the two are far from perfectly correlated, a mismatch known as disrationalia. See, cognitive scientists divide our thinking into 2 categories. System 1, intuitive automatic, fast thinking that may be prey to unconscious biases. And system 2, slow, more analytical, deliberate thinking. Now, according to this view, which is called dual process theory, many of our irrational decisions come when we rely too heavily on system 1, allowing those biases to muddy our judgment. The upshot, according to 𝐶 and other scientists studying motivated reasoning, is that smart people do not apply their superior intelligence fairly, but instead they use it opportunistically to promote their own interests and protect the beliefs that are most important to their identities. Intelligence can be a tool for propaganda rather than truth-seeking. Now, all this would seem to chime with research showing that beliefs may first arise from emotional needs, and it is only afterward that the intellect kicks in to actually rationalize the feelings, however bizarre they might be. Consider motivated reasoning and the my side bias. If human thought is primarily concerned with truth-seeking, we should weigh up both sides of an argument carefully. But if we just want to persuade ourselves that we are right, then we are going to see more convincing. We're going to see more convincing if we can pull together more evidence for our side altogether. Conversely, to avoid being duped ourselves, we need to be especially skeptical of others' arguments. And so we should pay extra attention to interrogating and challenging any evidence that disagrees with our own beliefs, just as 𝐶 had shown. As a result, we simply accumulate more information to accommodate our views. A lot of cornerstones, the building blocks that actually make an expert and allow them to do their jobs efficiently and also quickly, also entail vulnerabilities. You cannot have one without the other, explains the cognitive neuroscientist 𝐼𝐸 at the University College London, who has been at the forefront of much of this research. The more expert you are, the more vulnerable you are in many ways. The triumph of stupidity, in which was declared that the fundamental cause of the trouble is that in the modern world, the stupid are cocksure while the intelligent are full of doubt. Unfortunately, these discoveries do not paint the whole picture. In charting the shaky relationship between perceived and actual competence, these experiments have focused on general skills and knowledge, rather than more formal and extensive study that actually comes with a university degree, for example. And when you do investigate people with an advanced education, more unsettling vision of the expert brain begins to emerge. The most cynical reading of it is that we are not giving students knowledge that stays with them, Fisher said. We are just giving them sense they know things when they actually don't. And that seems to be counterproductive. Victor Ottati at La Jolla University in Chicago has shown that priming people to feel knowledgeable means they were less likely to seek or to listen to the views of the people who actually disagree with them. Simple priming. Cognitive enhancement can also limit creative problem solving if the expert fails to look beyond their existing schemas for new ways to tackle a challenge. They become entrenched in the familiar ways of doing things. The second sacrifice may be an eye for detail. As the expert brain chunks up the raw information into more meaningful components and works at recognizing broad underlying patterns, it actually loses sight of the smaller elements. This change has been recorded in real-time scans of experts' radiologists' brains. They tend to show greater activity in the area of the temporal lobe, associated with advanced pattern recognition and symbolic meaning, but less activity in the regions of the visual cortex that are associated with calming over fine detail. The intelligence trap shows us that it is not good enough to be foolproof. Procedures need to be expert-proof too. A greater appreciation of the course of expertise and the virtues of ignorance can also explain how some organizations weather chaos and uncertainty, while others simply crumble in the changing wind. The analogy of the brain as a car. This research confirms the idea that intelligence is the engine, and education and expertise are its fuel. By equipping us with the basic abstract reasoning skills and specialist knowledge, they put our thinking in motion. But simply adding more power will not always help you to drive that vehicle safely without counterfactual thinking and tacit knowledge. You may find yourself up a dead end. If you suffer from motivated reasoning, earned dogmatism, and entrenchment, you risk simply driving in circles, or worse, off a cliff. Benjamin Franklin seemed to have been especially aware of our tendency to lean heavily on the reasons that are most easily reached and recalled. As he describes in a letter, some people base their decisions on facts that just happen to be present in the mind, while the best reasons are actually currently absent. This tendency is indeed an important source of bias when we try to reason, which is why it is so important to give yourself the time to wait until all the arguments are laid out in front of you. The problem is that the most people, including those with high general intelligence, education, and professional expertise, lack the adequate self-reflection to interpret the valuable signals correctly and identify the causes, the cues that are going to lead them astray. Bias doesn't come from intuitions and emotions per se, but from an inability to recognize those feelings for what they really are and then override them when necessary. We then use our intelligence and our knowledge to justify erroneous judgments made on biases of them. Now, the good news is that these reflective skills can be learned. And when we do combine them with other principles of evidence-based wisdom, the results are powerful. Benefits of emotion differentiation. Besides being more equipped to disentangle the source of their feelings, people with more precise emotional vocabularies also tend to have more sophisticated ways of regulating their feelings when they threaten to get out of hand. Sensible regulating strategies include self-distancing and reprisal, which involves reinterpreting the feelings in a whole new light. It could also involve humor, cracking a joke to break the tension, or a change of scenery. Perhaps you simply realize that you do need to get away from the table and take a deep breath. But whatever strategy you use, you can only regulate those feelings once you have already identified them. Regulation is therefore the final cog in our emotional compass, and together, those three interconnected components, interception, differentiation, and regulation, can actually powerfully direct the quality of our intuition and our decision making. I do hope you are now convinced that engaging with your feeling is not a distraction from good reasoning, but an essential part of it. Thinkers from Socrates to Plato to Confucius have argued that you cannot be wise about the world around you if you do not first know yourself. The latest scientific research shows that this is not some lofty philosophical ideal. Incorporating some moments of reflection into your day will help debias every decision in your life. It is not just what people think that matters, but how they think. Now, the first step is to learn how to ask the right questions. Who is making the claim? What are their credentials? And what might there be their motives to make me think this way? What are the premises of the claim? And how might they be flawed? What are my own initial assumptions, and how might they be flawed? What are the alternative explanations for their claim? What is the evidence, and how does it compare to the alternative explanation? What further information do you need before you can make a judgment? See, most education is involved in just teaching students facts and theories about a particular field, not necessarily the methodologies of thinking skeptically or scientifically in general. These are the same principles we are hearing again and again: to explore, to listen, to learn, to look for alternative explanations and viewpoints, rather than one that comes most easily to mind, and to accept you do not have all the answers. Importantly, the research shows that some people are consistently more interested in the world around them. And then these individuals, differences in curiosity are only modestly related to general intelligence. For this reason, some psychologists now consider that general intelligence, curiosity, and conscientiousness are together the three pillars of academic success. If you lack any of these qualities, you are going to suffer. Someone with greater intelligence might have initially found it easier to process complex information, but if they lack a natural curiosity, they are unlikely to have been able to maintain that advantage. It shows us again that general intelligence is one crucial ingredient of good thinking, but it needs many other complementary traits to truly flourish. The real mystery is why so few of us manage to maintain that childlike interest, with many studies showing that most people's curiosity drops rapidly after infancy. If we are all born with a natural hunger to learn, what causes so many people to lose it as we do age? And how can we stop that decline? 𝐶 admits to being baffled by the results. He said he had fully expected that the gravitational pull of our identities would have overpowered the lure of curiosity, but it makes sense when you consider that curiosity helps us tolerate uncertainty, whereas incurious people feel threatened by surprise. Curious people relish the mystery. They enjoy being taken aback, finding out something new. It actually gives them that dopamine kick. And if that new information raises even more questions, they will raise to the bait. That makes them more open-minded, and that makes them willing to change their opinions, and also stops them becoming entrenched in dogmatic views. Further cutting-edge studies reveal that the growth mindset can protect us from dogmatic reasoning in a similar way by increasing our intellectual humility. If you have the fixed mindset, you are all the time trying to find out where you stand in this hierarchy because everyone is ranked. And if you are at the top, you don't want to fall over or be taken down from the top. So any sign or any suggestion that you do not know something or that someone actually knows more than you do is threatening to dethrone you. So you become overly defensive. You dismiss people's ideas with the notion that I know better, so I do not even have to listen to you and what you have to say. In the growth mindset, by contrast, you're not so worried about proving your position relative to those around you, and your knowledge doesn't represent your personal value. What's more, you're motivated to learn because that is what makes you smarter. So it is a lot easier to admit what you do not know. It doesn't threaten to pull you down from any kind of hierarchy. To learn well may actually be more important than knowing any particular subject or having any particular skill set. People are moving in and out of different careers a lot, and because we are globalizing, we are exposed to lots of different perspectives and different ways of doing things. Stigler has been researching these ideas for decades, and he suggests that his findings can be distilled to 3 stages of good teaching. Number 1, productive struggle. Long periods of confusion as students wrestle with complex concepts beyond their current understanding. Then, making connections. When underlying that intellectual struggle, students are encouraged to use comparison, to use analogies, helping them to see underlying patterns between different concepts. This actually ensures that the confusion leads to a useful lesson rather than simply ending in frustration. And finally, deliberate practice. Once the initial concepts have been taught, teachers should ensure that students practice those skills in the most productive way possible. Crucially, this does not involve simply repeating mere identical problems ad nauseum, as you might find in the Western math classrooms, but it actually means adding additional variety and challenges and yet more productive struggle. So, what are the components of intelligence? What should we all look at? Well, so getting started, curiosity, a disposition to wonder, ponder, and ask why. A thirst for understanding and a desire to explore, curiosity. Intellectual humility, a willingness to own up to one's own intellectual limitations and mistakes. Unconcerned with intellectual status or prestige. Intellectual autonomy, a capacity for active, self-directive thinking, an ability to think and reason for oneself. That is just to start with. From getting started, there into executing well. Okay. A tentativeness, a readiness to be personally present in the learning process, keeps distractions at bay, strives to be mindful and engage. Intellectual carefulness, a disposition to notice and to avoid intellectual pitfalls and mistakes, strives for accuracy. And intellectual thoroughness, a disposition to seek and provide explanation unsatisfied with mere appearance or easy answers. Probes for deeper meaning and understanding. And finally, from here, from getting started to executing well into handling challenges, open-mindedness, an ability to think outside the box. It actually gives a fair and honest hearing to competing perspectives. Intellectual courage, the readiness to persist in thinking or communicating in the face of fear, including fear of embarrassment or failure. And finally, intellectual tenacity, a willingness to embrace intellectual change and intellectual struggle, keeps his eye on the prize and does not give up. See, in parallel with the kinds of biases and errors behind the intelligence trap, Spicer and Albertson define stupidity as a form of narrow thinking lacking three important qualities: reflection about basic underlying assumptions, curiosity about the purpose of your actions, and a consideration of the wider long-term consequences of your own behavior. Ultimately, the secret of wise decision-making for any organization are actually very similar to the secret of wise decision-making for an intelligent individual. Whether you are a forensic scientist, a doctor, a student, a teacher, a financier, or aeronautical engineer, it actually pays to humbly recognize your own limits and the possibility of failure. Take account of ambiguity and of uncertainty. Remain curious and open to new information. Recognize the potential to grow from errors and actively question everything. It is easy as adults to assume that we have reached our intellectual peak by the time we finish our education. Indeed, we are often told to expect a mental decline soon after. But the work on evidence-based wisdom shows that we can all learn new ways of thinking, whatever our age, whatever our expertise, whether a NASA scientist or a school student. We can all benefit from wielding our minds with insight, with precision, and with consistency. And there you have it, the intelligence trap. Now please do help out. Simply like this video so more people can enjoy it. Share it too and spread the word. Do leave a comment and share your thoughts. Do subscribe to my channel and stay up to date. And the link to this book is in the description below. So buy it, read, never stop learning, especially learning about yourself and nature. So gift yourself by taking the free human needs test on my website and find out what actually motivates you. What innate human need is driving all of your decisions and your behavior. And if you feel you are ready to improve your self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, and relationship management even further, do check out my Master of Life Awareness program. The links are in the description below. Thank you. Love and respect.